What we need to know about charge, like whatever sort of experiment we're doing, we need to know about separation of charge, we need to know about types of charge, and we need to know about forces because of charges. And so when we first were discovering static electricity, the way that we discovered it, like we see it quite often in thunder and lightning, but the way we discovered how it works is by getting two different objects and rubbing them together. And what we discovered is that by rubbing two different objects together, we can make both of those objects charged. And so what we discovered is happening is that as we do that action of rubbing, we're transferring charge from one object across onto the other one. It turns out that it's the electrons move. Electrons are the really little particles that kind of in a cloud around the atom, and so as we rub objects together, the electrons get transferred from one to the other. And there's a really cool little thing we can do down by the tap to see this charge. So if we just focus down by the tap, if we just get like a little stream of water running and then we charge up our object, we can bring our object close to the stream of water, and we can see the effect of that static electricity on the stream of water. So we've got so much charge there that it's attracting the charges inside the stream of water. Oops. And the electric force is so strong, it's far stronger than gravity, that just a tiny little bit of electric charge can bend the stream of water that much as it goes past our charged object. When we're rubbing these two objects together, the electrons are getting transferred from one object to the other. And so the electrons are a negative charge. And so that means if we move electrons onto an object, that whole object becomes negatively charged. But in the same way, the object that the electrons moved away from gets left over with positive charge. And so as we rub two different materials together, electrons move, electrons have negative charge, and so the object that gets electrons gets negative charge, and the one that loses electrons gets positive charge. And what we discover really interestingly is that different materials are better or worse at creating static charge. And so we've got this thing called the Tribu electric series that you can Google up if you're interested, and it lists like all sorts of different materials that you can rub together and tells you like how strongly positive or how strongly negative something will become charged when it's rubbed against another object. And so by choosing materials that are at opposite ends of that series, like wool's pretty good, plastics down the other end, by rubbing those two things from opposite ends of the series together, we can get a really nice big static charge. So, separation of charge. So what we learnt is that rubbing separates charge. Electrons are transferred from one body to another. More electrons is negative charge, and fewer electrons is positive charge. And so most materials, when they start off, we say they've got neutral charge. And often that's made up, that is always made up of balanced positive charge and negative charge. And so the forces that exist between these different types of charge is that we say that like charges repel each other, and that means that like if we have a plus charge and a plus charge, they will push each other apart, and a minus charge and a minus charge will push each other apart, but a plus and a minus, opposite charges, will attract each other. So our rules are like charges repel, opposite charges attract. And the last thing we need to know about charge is that, like everything else in physics, it's something that we can measure. And so charge, the symbol we're using, like if we're measuring mass, we use the symbol M. If we're measuring charge, we use the symbol Q. Sometimes little q, sometimes big Q, they're used interchangeably. And like mass is measured in kilograms, charge is measured in coulombs. So the name for the unit of charge, and the symbol for that is capital C. That's what we need to know about how we separate charge, the different types of charge. Neutral, it's made up of balanced, positive and negative. Positive and negative types of charge. And that's different to what we're used to with mass. With mass, there's only one sort of mass that we're used to, and that's always going to attract, like gravity always attracts masses together. The sun attracts the earth, and the moon attracts the earth, and the earth attracts the moon. But with charge, sometimes they push away, sometimes they push together, depending on whether it's the same charge or opposite charges.